Hey everyone, welcome to Book Connoisseur.
Wow!
It's been a while. I was on vacation and then very quickly after we returned, my whole family got COVID again. So we've had quite the few weeks, both good and bad. But we're back and I am back with a little video that's been ruminating in my mind. I thought it might be fun for summer, and so I'm going to call this the Hot Mess Anti-Heroine. Now, hot mess is not a bad thing, and anti-heroine isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm using anti-heroine with the definition that it is a main character that is female and they are morally gray, or there's some morally gray decision that's been made in the book that makes it very messy or something along those lines. So these are sort of fun reads, relatable reads, all dealing with mental health in some way, and grief is a common theme throughout all of them. And I think that in a way, these books see the beauty in grief and how to move through grief alongside it without necessarily moving past it, because as you may know, grief is something that stays with you, and sometimes I think the healthiest way to deal with grief is to make light of it in a way. There we go. Anyway, so our first hot mess anti-heroine is from My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. This book takes place in New York City, early 2000s, a young 20-something girl who is dealing with the death of both of her parents, and her parents were not necessarily great parents. Our unnamed narrator's way of dealing with grief and her life and the instability of being a young 20-something by sleeping away a year with drugs and whatever she can get her hands on from this kooky psychiatrist. So, as you can tell, it's a hot mess. She is not a likable person. She's very mean to everyone around her. She makes very questionable decisions, extremely questionable decisions, but I had a lot of fun. This is a satire on mental health and life as a young 20-something. We're living in a time where prescriptions are given for everything, and this book sort of gets at the point, like, where do you draw the line? How blurry is it, really? And yeah, it was a great read. I couldn't put it down, and I think this would make a great, unexpected, non-romance beach read. So, speaking of kooky psychiatrist types, the psychiatrist in My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh reminded me so much of Greta from Big Swiss by Jen Began. And Greta is the main character in Big Swiss, and she has moved across the country to start her life anew. Greta is in her 40s, so she's not super young. She's figuring her life out still, and I think that that's really great to see in a main character, especially a female main character. Greta's questionable decisions come when she is hired to transcribe sessions for an SEX therapist in this small town of, I think is it Hudson? Yeah, Hudson, New York, which is upstate New York. She falls in love with one of the patients. Yeah, this was a wild ride. I absolutely adore Greta as a character, even though she makes these morally gray decisions. But this book was so fun, and I flew through it. This got me out of a serious reading slump. Also, I want to point out that Greta is a bisexual main character, which I haven't read a lot of bisexual main characters, although that does play. Now that I think about it, 2 of these 4 books have a bisexual main character. So, yeah, Big Swiss by Jen Began. The next book I want to mention has been making the rounds. You probably have heard of it. Many of you have read it. That is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. Coco Mellors' new book, Blue Sisters, just came out. I haven't read it yet because I'm waiting for it to come out on a floppy paperback. But her first book, Cleopatra and Frankenstein, tells the story of a young 20-something artist, Cleo, who meets this older, successful man, Frank, and they very quickly decide to marry for a green card. And it's about their relationship, and the people around them kind of get their relationship from multiple points of view, which I really loved. And this is super messy. My Year of Rest and Relaxation and Cleo and Frank are messy. I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but there are trigger warnings for suicide, attempted suicide in all of these books, and death. So if that's something that bothers you a lot, maybe steer clear. The beauty of these books is how they show the messiness behind grief that can come from mental health struggles. So it's funny because all of these books have artists in them, and I myself am an artist. Maybe in a former life. No, just kidding. In this life, I am still an artist. That's my main job, if you will. Anyway, yeah, so I really relate to a lot of these characters. I thought the evolution of Cleo and Frank's relationship was really well written, and I really enjoyed this and absolutely flew through it just like the others. This would make a great beach read as well. And the last book, which I just finished a few days ago and adore, is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. Now, this is my first book that I read by Akwaeke Emezi, and it was incredible. This is literally one of the first romances I've ever read, but I loved it. And their ability to create such a beautiful story. It's not just a romance, it's also about love, which I think it makes it very unique. It's like, how do you get through grief? How do you love again? How do you make your way, even like dipping your toe in thinking about like having a relationship with someone new? And there's not a lot of spice in this book, but it does start out very hot and heavy. So be warned, or enjoy, whichever is your preference. The reason I'm including this in my hot mess anti-heroine video is because there is a morally gray decision that Faye makes. This book is about Faye, who is a widow. Her husband was killed 5 years before the book takes place, and this is her getting her back in the dating realm. And she gets whisked away to an island by a suitor type who she's not sure about, and ends up falling in love with his dad. It's written right here on the back of the book. It's not a spoiler. And that is the morally gray decision that I think Faye makes. I mean, talk about a mess, and I loved it. This was fantastic. Could not put it down. This is the perfect beach read, and if you have not read this yet, I highly recommend it. Akwaeke Emezi's new book, Little Rot, just came out, and I was reading this in preparation for that. I'll probably read The Death of Vivek Oji, which is their previous novel that I already own, and then I will make my way to Little Rot. But this is their first and only, I think, romance. But yeah, it was great. That is my list of hot mess anti-heroines. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've read any of these. Shoot me a like, or leave me a comment if you have read any of them, if you agree with me categorizing them as hot mess anti-heroines, or disagree. I'd love to talk about it. Please subscribe if you want to see some more videos, and I will see you with a new video soon. Bye.